welcome or welcome back to Golem Telly. I am your host, the magical mystery. Now, the big movie news this week is that Joker 2 is out. Joker 2, also known as Joker Folie à Deux. And I'm going to go and see it on Sunday. In fact, I'll have seen it by the time this video comes out. Now, I know it's had some mixed reviews. I don't care. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. Mark Kermode said he liked it, and if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. It's actually given me a good idea, and that is to revisit one of the greatest Batman stories of all time. Now, this is The Killing Joke by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland. One of the greatest Batman stories ever written and ever drawn. Actually, it's two copies. The one at the front is my original copy from 1988. The one behind it is the Absolute Edition from 2018. And we're going to take a look at both of them tonight. You know how this works by now. Let's take them over to camera 2, let's stick them under the retroscope, and let's zoom in. Okay everybody, do like the Joker says, and smile. I like the fact that on the Absolute Edition that we've got here, there's no title, just the artwork itself with the one speech bubble, the Joker encouraging you to smile. But I'm still very proud of my original copy that I bought in the spring of 1988, and I've taken great care of it ever since. Note that his bow tie here is coloured in green, compared to the original one that was just left uncoloured. So let's take a look at my original graphic novel first. This wonderful Brian Bolland artwork. I won't go through every page now, I'll just have a little quick flick through so you can get a feel for the colouring and the layout. And it really is just an absolutely brilliant comic. And the story is second to none. It's an absolute classic. Is it the best Batman story of all time? Maybe one of the top 10? Maybe one of the top 3? Dark Knight Returns, Year One. Yeah, they're all up there. But so is The Killing Joke. Now, with the Absolute Edition, before I unwrapped it, it had this little leaflet in the back behind the shrink wrap, just telling you what the story is all about. Okay, I love the design of this slipcase. There's the Joker on the front cover pointing his camera at you. On the back, there's a great image of him going absolutely doolally. And on the spine, both on this side and on this side, you've got the title of the book. Let's get it open. This is great. Watch what happens here. So you've got that front image of the Joker with his camera, and then when you open it up, there is a brilliant profile image, not only on that side, but also on this side. And of course, it's not just been reversed. Each of these has been painted or drawn with great care by the master, Brian Bolland. The book here is divided in quite an interesting way. You've got the story itself, which isn't actually that long. It's around about 40, 45 pages, something like that. They've got the recolored version, and this is interesting because Brian Bolland was never especially happy with the coloring in the original graphic novel. He always wanted the flashback scenes to have a kind of a washed out, not quite a sepia tone, but very muted colors. But John Higgins didn't do that. I have to be honest with you, I like the original coloring. And I know that Brian Bolland prefers his newer coloring because he took control of the coloring for the newer edition. But I like the originals because that was how I first experienced the story. What can I tell you? I like what I like. Really, I just want to show you a few pages of this newer version, the recolored version, so you can get a feel for how it has changed. But for this video, I'm actually going to be looking through the reprinted original version, the original colors, which are also printed on matte paper. This newly recolored version is on glossy paper, and I'm not a big fan of that. I like my comics, wherever possible, to be on matte paper. Let's just keep this page open for a second, and what I'll do is I'll bring in my original copy, because this seems like a good opportunity to make a good comparison. So let's leave that there for a second. Book lies open quite well. So you can see very clearly the difference in the colours. Lots of yellows here, whereas on the left and newer colouring, it's far more sedate. Let's find an example of one of the flashback scenes. Okay, so this is a great example. And we'll come back to this part of the story in a moment, as I say, when we go through the original colouring. And if you take a look at the original edition compared to the new version, I mean, you can see that the colours are worlds apart. There's barely any colour in the new version at all, whereas the original was filled with colour. So there's Batman in his Batcave doing some detective work, and wow, it's an enormous difference. But I have to tell you, I loved this colouring and I've grown so used to it over the years that this is the way to experience The Killing Joke. So I'll get around to reading this newly coloured version at some point, but for now I'm going to skip forward to the version I want to read with you guys. Okay, this is pretty much where the reprint of the original version begins. Now, before we switch to the matte paper, you can see that there's still some glossy paper here, but I think that is designed deliberately to evoke the feel of the cover of the original graphic novel, which of course is glossy. So that's a nice touch. Okay, and let's get into it. This is where it begins. Now we'll start reading through the story. I'm not going to read every panel, but I know the story very well, so I'll just kind of summarize what's going on. So we begin on a dark and rainy night, and Batman pulls up outside Arkham Asylum in his Batmobile. I love these wordless panels. It's great storytelling. Everything we need to know is told through these single images, 9 panels on each page. There's Commissioner Gordon, with no idea of what the next 40 or so pages have in store for him just yet, but he's not going to like it. On his way to meet the Joker, he passes Harvey Dent's cell, Two-Face, and I love this glance that the Commissioner gives Harvey Dent over his shoulder. And here we are, this guy's looking pretty fed up. He is the one guarding the Joker's cell. Name unknown, that's important. We don't know the name or the real name of the Joker, not in this story. And the Batman arrives to have his showdown. And here we see the first narrative text. There were these 2 guys in a lunatic asylum. And that's important because that's the idea that essentially is explored throughout the whole of this story. The fact that these 2 characters, Batman and the Joker, they are both varying degrees of insane. And they both know it. They both need each other, they both hate each other, but one way or another, the path they're on is going to lead to their demise. Or at least that'll be the case for one of them, but perhaps both. I came to talk, and the Joker, of course, is playing patience. There's his prisoner number, 0801. I've been thinking lately about you and me, about what's going to happen to us in the end. We're going to kill each other, aren't we? Now, is that a bit of foreshadowing? Bear that in mind as we make our way through the story. You can see Batman's getting a little bit annoyed here, thinks that the Joker's not really listening. Are you listening to me? It's life and death that I'm discussing here. Maybe my death, maybe yours. I don't want your murder on my hands. And having grabbed the Joker's hand, he realizes, well, it's not the Joker after all. The Joker has escaped. Do you realize what you've set free? Where is he? And he's gone berserk. Another little hint as to Batman's mental state. And that's a theme that again is explored throughout the entire story. The idea of madness and what it takes to be driven insane. And so the Joker, having escaped, he has arranged to buy this fairground. I love this. It's garish, ugly, and derelicts have used it for a toilet. The rides are dilapidated to the point of being lethal and could easily maim or kill innocent little children. And the guy selling it says, "Oh, so you don't like it?" "Don't like it? I'm crazy for it." And this is a brilliant image as well. Look at Brian Bolland. Look, only Brian Bolland can do this properly. Fabulous. Here we get a glimpse into the anguish that the Joker was facing. He wanted to provide a decent home for his wife and their child, but he just couldn't afford to do it. And he was trying to get jobs and he wasn't getting any work. And he was trying to make it as a stand-up comedian. So it's really heartbreaking stuff. He just wants enough money to get set up in a decent neighborhood. Okay, so they shake hands on a deal for him to purchase the fairground, but obviously it's not quite the deal this guy was expecting. He's obviously injected him with a little bit of something horrible. The laughing face is mirrored in this card, this playing card that Batman is holding, and he's trying to find out where the Joker is, and he's not getting anywhere. I don't know him, Alfred. All these years, and I don't know who he is any more than he knows who I am. How can two people hate so much without knowing each other? Now here's Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon reading the paper. Barbara Gordon says, "I remember you describing the white face, the green hair to me as a kid. Scared the hell out of me. I had some interesting nightmares." Well, brace yourself. And it's another one of these wordless pages. This is really shocking stuff. I remember I was really dumbstruck when I read this first time around back in the 80s. She opens the door, there's the Joker pointing a gun straight at her, and without saying a word, he shoots her. And obviously she goes flying and crashes through this glass coffee table, and there she is lying in agony on the ground. And importantly here you see Commissioner Gordon seeing all of this. Now this is important because what happens to Barbara is very deliberately engineered by the Joker to drive Commissioner Gordon insane. That's the whole point of this. So Commissioner Gordon here is absolutely shocked and furious, but they punch him in the stomach. Remember, he's an old man, so he's not really built to take that kind of punishment. And the Joker's quips here are really sadistically cruel. He describes her agony here as a psychological complaint common amongst ex-librarians. She thinks she's a coffee table edition. I can't say much for the volume's condition. There's a hole in the jacket and the spine appears to be damaged. I mean, it's brilliant and horrible at the same time. Frankly, she won't be walking off the shelves in that state of repair. In fact, the idea of her walking anywhere seems increasingly remote. But then that's always a problem with softbacks. And then we have a flashback again, and this is a pretty regular feature of the story. Now we have this situation where the unnamed Joker is desperately trying to come up with a way to make some money to support his young family. So he falls in with these hoodlums and he agrees to help them carry out a robbery. It reminds me of the Bruce Springsteen song, Meeting Across the River. That line where he tells his girlfriend or his wife, "Last night I met this guy and I'm going to do a little favor for him." Brilliant writing by Alan Moore, brilliant writing by Bruce Springsteen. So the commissioner is chained up and they take all his clothes off, and obviously it's degrading for him. "Where are you taking me?" And then he realizes where he is. He's at a fairground, and all of the fairground acts are gathered. They're looking quite intimidating here. Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming this? What happened? I was sitting in my... And then he's ordered to get down, and we see that the Joker is atop this throne. The Joker says, "You're doing what any sane man in your appalling circumstances would do. You're going mad." And this is the whole point. The Joker wants to prove that anybody, if they have a bad enough day, or if they're pushed far enough, can snap and go insane. That's what it's all about. But it's about to get a whole lot worse for Commissioner Gordon, who is dragged into the ghost train, and the doors shut behind him. Madness is the emergency exit. You can just step outside and close the door on all those dreadful things that happened. You can lock them away forever. And here we are, back in the past, It's bad news for this poor man. "Excuse me, sir, we're police officers. Could we speak to you outside for a moment?" And of course he's here with these crooks planning the heist that's going to be taking place soon. And that's when he gets the news. "Sir, I'm sorry, but your wife had an accident this morning, apparently testing a baby bottle heater. There was an electrical short and, well, she died, sir. I'm sorry." I think these two panels here are fantastic. Both identical, pretty much. One with no words, just capturing those moments as the shock of this loss is sinking in. And then all he can muster is, what? It's brilliant. He has to absorb the shock of the loss of his wife and his unborn child. And then he tries to tell these hoodlums that there's no point in him doing the robbery anymore. So he wants to back out, but they won't let him. So he has to go through with it anyway. So he's lost everything, and now he's about to get involved with a dangerous crime. And that's not all, it's gonna get worse. So Commissioner Gordon is being guided through the ghost train while the Joker is singing crazily to him. And it all looks pretty horrible until you get to this next page and it gets to its absolute worst. This is when images, the photographs that the Joker took of the wounded Barbara Gordon are projected onto the walls of the ghost train ride, and Commissioner Gordon is forced to look at them while stripped naked and chained. And this, the Joker is hoping, is the jolt that's going to send him over the edge into insanity. Don't get even. Get mad. Now, I like these panels here. This is the Batman's fruitless search for the Joker. Batman here is scouring the criminal underworld of Gotham City, desperate to find any clue as to where the Joker might be hiding, but he doesn't get anywhere until the bat signal appears in the sky. So Batman makes his way to the source of the bat signal, and meanwhile we can see through these panels here that Commissioner Gordon's torture is ongoing. Batman finds that he has been sent a ticket, admit 1 with compliments, the Joker, so now he knows where to find his arch nemesis. And there's the Joker waiting for Commissioner Gordon after his horror ride. And this is it. He thinks he's done it. He thinks he's snapped Commissioner Gordon. Hello? Anybody home? So we're back in the past here, and the heist is about to begin. He's obviously heartbroken. They put this red hood over his head so that he can barely see anything. Unsurprisingly, it all goes horribly wrong. These guys get shot. He gets covered in their blood, and he tries desperately to escape. They think he's the ringleader. Batman arrives at this point. So Batman's involvement is important here because, of course, the Joker will later come to blame Batman or associate Batman with the horrors of what happened to him. He escapes by jumping over this railing and landing in this chemically polluted water. And by the time he emerges and takes off his red hood, he realizes he has been disfigured horribly by the chemicals in the water. And there he is. This is the moment where he officially becomes Joker. And we're back in the present day, and we're at the fairground. The Joker, of course, is now just waiting for Batman to arrive, and we're back to the original dialogue. Hello, I came to talk. And there's a brilliant confrontation between these two now. I've been thinking lately about you, about me, and it's the same dialogue as before. What's going to happen to us in the end? They start slugging it out with each other. Perhaps you'll kill me, perhaps I'll kill you, perhaps sooner, perhaps later. And Batman sees Commissioner Gordon trapped in his cage, naked, frees him while the Joker's run off into the House of Fun. But importantly, we realize that he has not been driven mad. The Joker has failed here. And then he offers to stay with Commissioner Gordon until the police arrive, but we realise the Commissioner is okay. He says, you have to go after him. I want him brought in, and I want him brought in by the book. We have to show him. We have to show him that our way works. And now he's inside the House of Fun, looking for the Joker. And the Joker is using the tannoy system, or whatever it is, to taunt Batman or plead with him. He tries to compare the two of them, as in they both are crazy. They were both driven mad over the edge by something horrible that happened to them, and their insanity was the only logical course of action that they could take. You had a bad day once, am I right? I know I am. I can tell. You had a bad day and everything changed. Why else would you dress up like a flying rat? So he tries to figure out what it was that happened to Batman to turn him so crazy. I mean, what is it with you? What made you what you are? Girlfriend killed by the mob, maybe? Brother carved up by some mugger? Something like that happened to me. You know, I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. Now, this is also quite significant because it suggests that the flashbacks that we're given might not be entirely the case. They might not be entirely true. That's up to us. There's a lot of ambiguity here when reading the story, and that's deliberately so. Alan Moore wrote this in such a way as to leave the questions unanswered. And so maybe all the stuff that we've seen in the flashbacks didn't really happen. Maybe it's the Joker remembering it a certain way. Who knows? I'm happy to believe that the flashbacks show the actual events that occurred. But it's not certain. And this idea of the joke here, the killing joke, it's all a joke. Everything anybody ever valued or struggled for, it's all a monstrous, demented gag. So why can't you see the funny side? Why aren't you laughing? There's a couple of great one-liners here. Batman comes smashing through this mirror. Brilliant image. And I have to say, the colours here are fantastic. Let's just compare it to the newer version, the Brian Bolland authorised version. Oh look, straight to it. And there it is. I mean, it looks great and everything, but I'm sorry, I'll take this any day of the week. That's beautiful. So why aren't you laughing? Because I've heard it before and it wasn't funny the first time. And the Joker takes a bit of punishment here. And this is where Batman informs the Joker that the Commissioner is absolutely fine. Well, I wouldn't say absolutely fine, but he hasn't cracked in the way that the Joker was hoping he would. Despite all your sick, vicious little games, he's as sane as he ever was. Okay, the Joker giving as good as he's getting. And he is almost about to stab Batman, but Batman, I guess, senses the danger, grabs his wrist, punches him in the gut, and hurls him a considerable distance again. Out comes the gun. It's a great image. And he points it directly at Batman, who thinks, uh-oh, this could be a problem. But it's a joke gun. God damn it, it's empty. And then we get to this point where the fighting is over, and it's just the two of them. These two foes who've been in each other's lives all these years. What are you waiting for? I shot a defenseless girl. I terrorized an old man. Why didn't you kick the hell out of me and get a standing ovation from the public gallery? Because I'm doing this one by the book, and because I don't want to. I don't want either of us to end up killing the other, but we're both running out of alternatives, and we both know it. And he wants to try and help the Joker. He wants to maybe even rehabilitate him. I wonder in this moment, in this panel, if he's just thinking about it for a second. But no, it's too late for that. You know, it's funny, this situation reminds me of a joke. And we're in the final double-page spread now of the story. And here comes the joke. There were these two guys in a lunatic asylum. You'll remember that was the opening bit of narrative. And here we continue with the whole joke. And one night, One night they decide they don't like living in an asylum anymore. They decide they're going to escape. They get up onto the roof, and there, just across this narrow gap, they see the rooftops of the town stretching away in the moonlight, stretching away to freedom. Now the first guy, he jumps right across with no problem, but his friend daren't make the leap. You see, he's afraid of falling. So then the first guy has an idea. He says, "Hey, I have a flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings and you can walk along the beam and join me." But the second guy just shakes his head. He says, "What do you think I am, crazy? You'd turn it off when I was halfway across." Let's just think about the joke for a second. What does it mean? Shining the beam of light to help the other guy get across the gap. Now, there's lots of ways of interpreting this joke, but the way I like to interpret it is, I guess, fairly uncontroversial. I think it's essentially the idea of Batman being the friend who can turn the light on for the Joker to walk across. But the Joker is so terrified that Batman will turn the light off when he's halfway across that he daren't cross it. Because the pain of losing his family the way he did and being disfigured was all so much that the only way he could cope with it was by going insane. And if he follows Batman back along the path to sanity, then he risks letting in all that pain again. And it's too big a risk to take. And there are other ways of interpreting it too. Some people think that it's the Joker shining a light for Batman and trying to suggest that if he follows him into utter insanity, it's the only really effective way to deal with the pain that he's experienced. So, in other words, Bruce Wayne lost his parents when he was a boy, and the horror of that ultimately led him to becoming Batman, but the Joker is offering a way out here. If Batman were only to accept that way out, then he could become completely insane too and be a whole lot happier. The great thing about this story is that Alan Moore leaves it up to you to decide. And that's pretty much where it ends. They are left there laughing together as the police sirens get closer. And I wondered about this panel in the old days. When I was 15 and I first read this, I thought that Batman was at this point attacking the Joker. And a lot of people since have posited that Batman actually kills the Joker at this point. Not least Grant Morrison, but that's only one possible interpretation. And I don't think that Batman is killing the Joker here. The body language would be all wrong. I think that looks like they are both laughing together at the insanity of their situation before the Joker is taken back to Arkham Asylum. And that, folks, is The Killing Joke, the most incredible Batman story. So before I wrap up, let's just have a quick look at the rest of the book. It's mostly dominated by the script, and that takes up dozens and dozens of pages. The script starts here on page 116. It carries on with no interruptions all the way through to 237, 239. It's about 150 pages worth of script. Incredible. Worth a read one day, but not today. There are some pieces of artwork. There's another little story. Oh, what was this called again? An Innocent Man, The Innocent Man, something like that. Written and illustrated by Brian Bolland. It's just a short story. Some original artwork there. Pencil drawings. Look at these images. They're just fantastic. And we are very close to the end now. And there you have it. Batman, The Killing Joke by Alan Moore, Brian Bolland, and John Higgins. Truly awesome. What a story. Thank you so much for joining me as I read through that story again tonight. I really appreciate it. If you could like and share this video, you'll be my friend forever. And if you could subscribe to Golem Telly, I have no words. Please also don't forget to hit the notifications bell so that you don't miss my next video, which is coming up in around 3 or 4 days' time. Please enjoy the rest of your evening, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Evening shadows deep.